Hello everyone, we welcome you all to the Open Pakistan webinar series. The Open Pakistan webinar series is an initiative of the Open Program for Pakistan. The core aim of the program is to provide professional development opportunities to English language teachers and learners from all across Pakistan through the virtual programs including Open Global Online Courses, Massive Open Online Courses, webinar series, and then engaging our alumni into different fruitful activities. The most important thing, this program is fully funded by the Regional English Language Office at the US Embassy Islamabad. Evolution is the local implementing partner in Pakistan. If you wish to stay updated about RELO Pakistan and its opportunities, you can visit www.facebook.com/RELO Pakistan. You can also subscribe to RELO Pakistan YouTube channel. If you wish to stay updated about Open Program for Pakistan, you can visit www.evolution.com.pk/open programs. So today, under the series of 7, we are broadcasting our webinar 7.4, and the topic for our webinar is the pedagogical cycle, a key to fruitful teaching and learning. The presenter for our today's topic is Miss Irum. Miss Irum Kousar is an Open Pakistan alumna who has attended several Open Massive Open Online Courses, MOOCs, American English Live Series, along with the Critical Thinking in Language Learning and Teaching Online, Global Online course from the University of Oregon. Miss Irum is currently working at a public school in Sindh. Her journey with RELO Pakistan programs enhanced her critical thinking skills and professional skills to the advanced level. So the objectives of this webinar are: this webinar will enable the participants to understand the importance of pedagogical cycle, to learn the basic steps of pedagogical cycle, last but not the least, to explore some of the tips and tricks to make teaching and learning process more effective using pedagogical cycle. So without any delay, I would like to welcome Ms. Irum Kousar to present a webinar.
Hello everyone, I'm Irum Kousar. I work at Government Girls Higher Secondary School, Degree. I'm truly thankful to the RELO Pakistan for providing me this opportunity to present this webinar today. I'm really very excited to share with you some of my interesting classroom experiences, and I'll be presenting the topic, the pedagogical cycle, a key to the fruitful teaching and learning. So let's begin. These are the steps which I consider extremely important for the fruitful teaching and learning, and I'll also be sharing some of my personal experiences and certain tips that how I benefit from this cycle. In my presentation, I've also tried to focus some of the major issues of the public schools where there are lack of resources, but with the effective use of this cycle, how we can teach effectively. I'll begin with the introduction of the pedagogical cycle, that what is pedagogical cycle? The pedagogical cycle is a sequence of methods that promotes effective instruction in the classroom. This method is used again and again to teach and engage students in new concepts and skills. Each step in the cycle should be handled in chunks to prevent bombardment of large amount of knowledge which could lead to confusion. By chunking the information, students will be able to build on prior knowledge and continue to learn a skill or concept. This teaching cycle engages students, promotes better learning and processing of new information. This pedagogical cycle is divided into 8 steps. We will begin with the provide pre-organizer, then use motivators, bridge prior knowledge, then share objectives, then introduce new knowledge, and then we have to reinforce that knowledge, then provide practice, and finally the culminating review. The pedagogical cycle is a sequential process for both learning and instruction. It places focus on a series of steps that encourage a more thorough understanding and a deeper application of content. It also pushes students toward inquiry and discovery in their learning. This cycle gives teachers a process for instruction while giving students a formula for learning. So, the steps of these cycles in a sequence are really very important for the effective and fruitful teaching. Now let's start with the first step of the pedagogical cycle, Our first step is provide a pre-organizer. To focus students' attention, use displays or explanations to let students know in advance what they are responsible for learning. This step is a tool which illustrates the relationship between the students' previous knowledge and what they are about to learn. This is the tool which is used to introduce the topic of the lesson and also connect the students' previous knowledge with the current one. For example, we have taught the students about the letter writing, and now today we are going to teach about the business letters. First we will remind them about the letter writing steps, and then we will connect their learning with the today's topic of business letters. So like that, we can provide a pre-organizer and tell them what they are going to know in advance. Now let's move to the second step of this cycle. This is use motivators. Use objects and activities in the beginning of the lesson to ensure students are focused and motivated. This step is really very important because at this step, we have to create a desire or enthusiasm among our students to accomplish or achieve something. For that, I mostly create some type of story. I bring any type of interesting picture, any artwork or any movie clip to engage them, to motivate them toward the learning. Sometimes I give them any type of challenging work and boosting team spirits or increasing independence among them. But I must tell you at this stage, you have to praise the students for doing well because it is very important for the students. After the praise, students respond well, and there's a link between the praise and the students' achievement. An environment should be established that let the students know it is acceptable to make mistakes. But it is also very important that they should know that their efforts are inadequate or incorrect. If they are wrong, they have done any type of mistake, they must know about that. So this is the stage that if you have motivated your students well towards the lesson, you will get the fruitful result. The third step of this cycle is build bridges to prior knowledge. Scaffold or connect the concepts to be introduced to content or experiences students already have acquired. I consider this step a key to knowledge because this is a step at this stage. You have provided them the pre-organizers, you have used the motivators. Now your students are fully motivated towards your class, your lesson. Now at this stage, you have to know about your students, what they have already knowledge about the topic and from where you have to start from. For this purpose, I mostly use the KWL chart, the formative assessment. I sometimes put any question and start the discussion, sometimes brainstorming, sometimes any performance-based task. But I always try to keep my class student-centered and try to be and make my students an active participant during the lesson. I deliver content, I take on more of a coaching or mentoring role to help my students to answer frequently of any question or any activity or respond actively or participate actively in the given task. A simple test or a worksheet can also be used to get students prior knowledge, but I always try to focus to make my class student-centered and to make my students to be an active participant in their learning process. I just try to become a coach or a mentor and help the students in their learning. I frequently use formative assessment tools to assess their learning progress. Now the next step of pedagogical cycle is share objectives. Explain the objectives of the lesson to your students so they can understand what is expected from them when the lesson concludes. This stage is really very important because at this stage you can actively involve your students in their lessons, including tips and ideas for you to try in your lessons. Objectives are the goals and targets of the learning. So they have number of benefits and uses in your teaching process. By sharing objectives, a teacher can encourage the students to take more control of their learning. The student will come to know that what and why they are learning this. It also gives them an opportunity to connect up with the previous lessons. With clear objectives, not only students will know how to demonstrate their achievement after the end of the lesson, but it would be helpful for the teacher to assess their students. Means it provides teachers with a template for giving feedback in the end of the lesson. But it must be remembered, only the correct use of this stage can give you fruitful result of your lesson, because if your objectives are not clear or too many objectives can obscure your lesson's purpose and could be unmanageable. I mostly prefer to plan 3 objectives in a lesson. Like if I'm going to teach the noun, just my students will be able to identify the noun. They will be able to understand the kinds of noun, and they will be able to differentiate noun with the other parts of speech, or can identify the noun from the other parts of speech. The 5th step of this cycle is introduce new knowledge. Use the methods and media you have selected to present new content. Now, if you have successfully completed the 4 steps of the pedagogical cycle, now this step would be very easy for you. This stage depends on the teacher's choice, that what methods or approaches the teacher is going to use. As I try to use some innovative ways that I can motivate my students and introduce new knowledge. As I told you earlier that I belong to the rural side of Sindh, and my school students belong to the diverse background, and we have lack of resources, so it is really difficult for me to use props. So I always try to find some innovative ways which could be low cost also. So what I do, I collect some pictures from the newspaper and the magazines and modify them and use them according to a lesson topic. It is really interesting for them, for my students, and for me to manage my lesson and introduce new knowledge. Now it depends on the teacher's choice that how a teacher is going to introduce that topic. After introducing new topic, I engage my students in an activity either on their own or in groups. I design my activity in such a way that students explore the topic either through data collection of some kind, experimentation, problem solving, or group work. But I give them opportunity to apply their higher level thinking skills. After introducing new knowledge, we have to reinforce that knowledge, and this is the 6th stage of the pedagogical cycle. We can use demonstrations, modeling, formative feedback, and examples to reinforce content acquisition. Now, whatever activity you have involved your students on the introduce new knowledge step, then you can ask your students to share that knowledge, share that result and conclusion from that phase, from that activity. Once the students have shared their result, you can discuss it in a class. That is the way that you can reinforce that knowledge, and you can give the feedback at this stage of their result, of their activity, of their performance. After a teacher-led lesson, a student can easily evaluate their knowledge. But in my case, my students prefer to share their knowledge with their peers. So I give them chance to share their knowledge with the peers instead of the teacher, because after this step, they can independently do their work or their assignment. My students mostly feel comfortable to work with the partner, but the common activity that mostly I do in my class to encourage them, to motivate them to work independently, that I'm going to share with you today, that is the jam. This is really very interesting activity and encourage student and help them to gain confidence. Jam is a speaking activity challenge. Jam means just a minute. So we can perform this activity on any stage. You can use it as a pre-organizer, you can use it as a motivator, or you can use it as a bridge to the prior knowledge. It depends on the teacher that how you are using this. But I mostly do this activity at this stage. So first of all, I explain them the rules of this activity, that you have to speak for 1 minute, and you have to talk on the given topic without grammatical mistake, and there must not be any pause or gap and no repetition of any sentence, any idea. Now I give them topic from the lesson which I have taught, which I want to get the knowledge or feedback from them. So I give them topic accordingly. Sometimes I give them topic of their choice. They have to choose randomly from the cards. Then they have to talk, they have to speak for 1 minute, and I give them challenge, and independently my students perform this activity. They really very enjoy this activity. And one more benefit I get from this activity, that my during the introducing new knowledge, my students feel active and enthusiastic to get each and every point of that lesson, so that they can win this activity, they can perform and actively participate in this activity. So I suggest you to must try this activity in your classroom for the fruitful result. And again, I'll say that you can try it at any stage. It's up to you that how you are using this activity. That depend on the lesson topic. You can use it in the literature. You can use it in the language. It's up to you. But it will encourage your students to work independently. Whenever I announce that we are going to start jam, my students shout out loudly and become very enthusiastic to do this activity. Now moving to the 7th stage of the pedagogical cycle is provide practice experiences. Shift to learning strategies to provide students with opportunities to work and practice content. This is the stage on this that you have to give the students any practical work, that what they have learned. At this stage, we can give our students problem solving activities and give them idea that how they can use, how they can apply the learned knowledge in the real world scenarios. This stage give the students a new skill and a new idea that how they can apply their learned knowledge and how their knowledge fits in their real lives outside the classrooms. The best example of this stage is writing emails and letters in a real situation. They have to you can assign them to write a letter to their friend, to their brother and sister, or anyone relative in their family, or write an email. This is the practical use of their learned letter writing that they have learned. At this stage, before assigning any practical work or investigation, I divide my students into groups so that they can share their ideas, their views, their researches, their investigations, and they can also share the workloads. Now it depends on the topic, that number of the students in one group, that sometimes I divide them into the group of 2, or sometimes 3 to 4 or 5 to 7. And the group division is also depending, that sometimes I divide myself according to the students' ability, and sometimes randomly I choose and make them the groups like with the cards, with the help of cards. But I prefer to divide my students into the group of 5 to 7 students, because my class is a crowded class and I have to involve every student. And one more benefit is that they have diversity of ideas and views, and they can share the workloads according to the ability. One can be the speaker, one can be the note maker, one can be the researcher. Like that, they can divide the workload also effectively. Some groups divide the responsibilities themselves, and sometimes I have to help them, that who will be the spokesperson, who will be the note taker, who will be the researcher and summarizer. And during this group work, I play the vital role of the manager and monitor the progress of the students. I provoke them. I do some type of questioning to provoke them and to make them understand that what they are learning. And in this process, some students feel comfortable to communicate their ideas to other students instead of the teacher. At that time, a teacher should be vigilant that the discussion must be on track, and a student should not divert their attention towards anything else. This process of provoking students can raise students' involvement and make them engaged during the learning process. A student become very active, and obviously they become less afraid of being wrong. At the time, they can discuss confidently every type of idea, every type of research what they have done. After that, every group make the formal presentations, and after the presentation I allow every student to make a comment or to add something, and like that I involve all of the group members in the activity. And if any question is asked from the class of any of the class fellow, then any of the group member can reply, can add the comment, or can answer that question. Not only the presentation, you can create a debate of what they have found on the topic. If the topic is same, you can create a debate. You can assign them any home project or any home assignment you can do at this stage, or that individual assignment can also be given. Means just the main purpose of this stage that you have to provide them the practice experiences of their knowledge which they have received during this process. If you have assigned any home assignment, then ask your student to explain that assignment, that what they have done. Means they have to present their concept in the form of the practical. Now let's come to the final stage of this pedagogical cycle, and that is the culminating review. Reinforce content through verbal, visual, and auditory review of the materials presented. At this stage, a teacher has to get the review of the taught knowledge and can assess the students that what they have learned from this knowledge and their concepts. Teacher can take the review in the form of the discussion. I mostly present any type of video clip and then get the comments and start the discussion and get the review. And we can do the review games. We can put the question of the day, that also I apply in my class, that I put a question of the day related to my lesson, and then get a different type of answers according to the students. We can get the review with the help of flashcards, with the pictures, with the charts. Now it depends on the topic and on the teacher and the level of the students, that how we are getting the review from the students. Now at this stage, teacher has to give the feedback to the students of their work which they have done. And this is a very important stage because the effective feedback presents a variety of opportunities and benefits in the classroom, from showing progress and identifying misunderstandings to gaining a deeper understanding of preferred learning styles and celebrating success. So it means feedback can motivate students to improve their learning rather than simply chasing grades. So I mostly, at the time of giving feedback, I first of all start my feedback with the appreciative words and then notify them about the flaws which they have done in their presentation or in their work or in their assignment. So this is the end of the webinar now. Hope you have found today's webinar very fruitful for your teaching and learning process. Having a working understanding of all the pedagogical cycle and strategies can seem like a considerable effort, but breaking down into the bite-sized and actionable practice can help any teacher have a more impactful approach. So I suggest you to follow each and every step confidently and try it in your teaching learning process for the fruitful result of your teaching. I hope you will find this pedagogical cycle best for your teaching process, whether you are using discussions for insight, that how your students are learning, or you are doing any type of activity, you are using digital tools, Socratic seminar, or any type of activity that we are using. You will find the best result by using this pedagogical cycle. Whether you are using group activities or the literature circle, you will find this pedagogical cycle best fit for the individual needs of every student. With experimentation, with your creativity, and with your innovation, by applying your own methods, you can benefit from this pedagogical cycle, and hope you will find it very fruitful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the wonderful opportunity. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please feel free to write us on open@evolution.com.pk. Till then, happy teaching and learning. Thank you.